these are my memories. And other people go through the same thing and have their own memories. Some of my information is secondhand, third hand, or whatever. And any quotes I might make from somebody 30, 40 years ago, there's probably a little bit of poetic license involved with that. Second thing is, I just have to tell you, this is personal. Peter caused me a great deal of hurt this last month. He doesn't know it, but he did. For years, when I'd come home, I'd tell the wife, I saw so-and-so downtown. And boy, did they look old. And she said, well, have you looked in the mirror lately? And I said, well, yeah, I look in the mirror every day. And the guy's getting a little older, but he's only a day older than he was yesterday. So what's the big deal about one day? So after the meeting last month, Peter said he had me on YouTube. So I got on YouTube and looked at the segment about the steam laundry and Gilton. Now I'm telling you, I was shocked. I was truly shocked. You know what I saw on there? I saw an old man. Holy cripes! Why did that burst my bubble? Okay, now this foolishness out of the way. After the meeting last month, Pete asked me, he said there was something that he couldn't find too much information on. And that was 30, 40 years ago, the fire department was making headlines all the time. But there was nothing that he could find out about. And I said, well, just by coincidence, that's my topic for next month. So the topic is this, voting. Now, years ago, when I joined, and for a number of years thereafter, everything was done with this box. You got white marbles and black marbles in there. Anything that come up, elections, voting of any kind, you're lined up, just you got this checked. The marbles went on one side, you put a ball in there. Then when they got done, they opened it up. Now it didn't make any difference if there was 15 white balls. If there was one black ball, the issue was defeated. Simple. One black ball could outdo all the rest. Okay, so they figured out finally that, well, that wasn't really the way to go. And so they started with raising your hand or A's and A's. That was a little more democratic. Now, it wasn't foolproof, but it was better than what we had. Okay, starting about 1958, John Dugan was elected chief. Harry Junquist was the second assistant chief, and I was third assistant chief. And we stayed that way for 20 years. This election every year. The pecking order, if you want to call it that, if you wanted to be the chief, normally you were the assistant first, and then you went up the rank. If you wanted to break into being a chief officer, you picked on the lowest guy, which in that case was me. And it's still that way today. No, you pick on the lowest, the junior officer, junior chief officer, that's the guy that you're going to run against. And after 20 years, I stepped down. I didn't run again. I wanted to get back to my first love, and that was driving truck. And I've always been a truck buff, and that's what I enjoyed doing. And also about the same time, there was a little unrest in the department about what direction we were going. Now, I don't know if it was so much maybe the direction we were going, it was the road we were taking to get there. And so, they wanted to do something. All right, they also figured out that with the present system of voting, it wasn't going to happen. Because that system is ripe with intimidation. Everybody raises their hands. So one faction can look at another faction and he voted this way and he voted that way. And you can pinpoint this thing. Another thing is, say Peter and I are good friends and we're sitting side by side. All right, an issue comes up. I feel very strongly about it, that it should be passed. Well, he's got some doubts. And so he doesn't think he wants to vote for it. So they call for a vote. Raise your hand. I raise my hand. I look over at Peter and he hasn't got his hand raised. So I give him a look. Like wives give husbands. Anyway, he figures, what the hey. So he raises his hand. Now that isn't what he really wanted to do. So that's one of the fallacies of hand voting. So they finally got permission to hire Bill Heavey to come over and look over our voting regulations and to see if there was a better way to do it. Now, at one time, Bill Heavey and Bob Cox Jr. were both firefighters sitting here in the membership room. So anyway, Bill come over, and the upshot of it was secret paper ballots. So they passed that. They said, next election, that's what they were going to do. All right, now the dissidents figured that now we got a chance because we're not going to be intimidated. And so they got Harry Jungwist to run against John Dugan for fire chief. All right, when it came time to vote, they had tables set up out here. Bill Heavey was here to supervise it. You got a paper ballot, you went in the kitchen by yourself, marked your ballot, come out, put it in a box. Lo and behold, Harry Jungwist was elected chief. Front page news in the Wellsboro paper. All right. Your election was the first part of December. You took office in January the 1st. Midway between Christmas and New Year's, Harry Jungwist resigned the office before he even took office. Front page news. Now they had to have a special election. They talked me into running for fire chief. Now, I talked it over with my wife. She advised me, don't do it. Now, I don't know how many of you husbands listen to your wives, but I didn't. So I ran. So they went through the whole scenery again. Heavey was here, went in the kitchen, voted. Lo and behold, I was elected fire chief. Front page news. And that went on for about 3 or 4 weeks. Now, I'm a worrier by trade. You've got to worry a little bit when you're a chief officer about this, that, and the other thing. But I went overboard worrying. And I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks. Finally, the wife said to me, you better get out of there. So I resigned. Front page news. So then they had another election. Well, they ran out of assistants running it, John, so John was reelected. Now, I don't know if there was any great big animosity there. We went back to being one department, and that was it. Now, after that, after John was reelected, there was a cartoon in the Wellsboro Gazette, and I just thought it was funny as all get out. It had a hallway with an office door on it, glass paned office door, and it had Fire Chief Dugan. Then it had a brushstroke through Dugan and Junquist. Then it had a brushstroke through Junquist, Steger. Then there was a brushstroke through the Steger, Dugan. Then it shows a disgusted sign painter walking down the hall. So the upshot of it is this. We went through a lot to get secret paper ballot voting. It's the only true way to go. Now, a lot of times things come up, and for the sake of expediency, we raise our hands. And at times it's all right. But when a really crucial or dividing matter, then you want a secret paper ballot. Now, as far as I know, most personnel matters, secret paper ballot. If the chair calls for a show of hands, and there is one member, now I think, we have to look in the bylaws, but I think, if one member wants a secret paper ballot, the chair's got to grant it. Also, if you do have a hand show, and maybe it's kind of iffy which way to go, a member can request that a revote is taken with secret paper ballot. And I think it's got to be granted. And so we fought long and hard for secret paper ballots. Don't ever give it up.
Thanks, Tom.